to nobody's surprise here, anyways, Google announces its forthcoming competitor to ChatGPT.
Yeah, so they've got a couple different programs that they're working on. One is sort of in-house, and then the other one is a little bit external, which is that Bard that's been making the headline. So you knew obviously they weren't going to sit around and just let this go to Microsoft or OpenAI. So we'll see what happens there.
Have you picked at this yet? Have you looked at anything? I mean, I don't see anything. I don't see a product drop. Do you?
Yeah, it's not available yet to the general public, I don't believe. I think it's just internal.
Yeah, to me this looked like a big nothing burger because it looked like a Me Too moment for Google. It didn't look like let's see, the AI will act as an experimental conversational AI service for its users. Like, I don't know. I mean, we know it's coming, but if I can just be frank, I'm nonplussed, as they would say in the geek world. This did not blow my hair back. What did you get anything from this?
No, I really didn't. I think Microsoft's got a little bit of a lead here, and I think they're already planning to have it integrated with Bing. They're having it integrate with Microsoft Word and things like that to pull in that content. So I think they've got a little bit of a lead here. We'll see how quickly Google catches up.
So you say Microsoft, not ChatGPT or OpenAI.
Correct. Yeah, I've just use Microsoft because Microsoft has they have the audience, they have the platform to integrate it. I mean, OpenAI has an API that you can get to, but I think Microsoft will probably be, if they can integrate that with Word, which I'm sure they've probably already done internally. I think that's when it goes from being sort of a geek thing that people try once or twice and then get back to the real world to something that, your parents might use, or somebody who's not necessarily in that world yet,
Yeah. So I just highlighted a section of this article from Engadget. The program will not simply be open to the internet as ChatGPT was. Google is starting with the release of a lightweight version of Lambda, which requires far lower system requirements than its full spec brethren for a select group of trusted users before scaling up from there. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, we know it's coming, but this release seemed a little thirsty, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, to announce something, before you've done it is like, all right, the tech world is very much show me, like
Show
anybody
me.
can.
And that's why ChatGPT blew everybody's minds, because it was there. You logged in, you created an account, and you typed your first query into ChatGPT, and this thing spoke back to you.
Yeah. Yep. Have you seen any of the stuff of so they call it trying to remember the phrase here, but um, Nathan, I'll have to edit this part out, but hallucinations. Have you looked into the hallucinations?
No.
So hallucination is when an AI program like this decides it's not going to just say, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer, but basically make something up or uses bits and try to pull stuff together. So there's been some internet posts and Reddit posts about asking, like, who's the CEO of Twitter? And at one point, the ChatGPT said that Elon Musk was, which it shouldn't know because technically they say it only knows through 2021. But then it went off on this crazy rant about the either Musk or the previous CEO being killed in a car accident and all this sort of wacky stuff. So there's been instances where it's sort of gone off the rails to try to come up with something, and what it's produced have been completely false, which is sort of scary.
I'm a little surprised that the thing doesn't like cite its sources.
That's an issue too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you ask it to cite its sources, if it would, and I hope that they implement that. I hope that it comes to the point where, like, if it can't ascertain an answer, that it simply just gives you real speak. Like, this is, like, you guys all know, for all 19 of our subscribers, that I'm all in on the smart assistant, right? I want Jarvis. I want Jarvis really, really, really bad. Like, not because I'm lazy, but because like I see that, as Tony Stark did in the movies. Um, it amplified his abilities. Still, he was a genius, but like he used a smart assistant to amplify his genius, and that's the value I see. Listen, we can all walk our kids to school, but a car amplifies our time and our abilities. So I cannot wait until this technology makes it to the speakers that are in every room of my house, so that I can have dialogue based conversations with the AI to say like what's the weather today, like you know
Mhm.
and have that kind of conversational experience. And the kids, when they start doing research for their homework and things, that they can start having this conversational experience with it. So that's what I'm looking for. But it would be nice. You have to have the system be like, hey, I don't have data on that, and
Mhm.
then maybe offer you some appropriate supplement. This seems relevant in the context. I don't have exact data on George Washington's birthday, but historians believe in large part that this and that and this and that. So it still remains a useful tool rather than just being a bullshit artist.
Right, right. And I think the other issue is going to be content producers. So people who are, writing an article, let's say something very specific for Field and Stream magazine or something about hunting conditions in northwestern Wyoming in in the summer. So you ask ChatGPT and it finds that article, which might be the single source or the single producer of that content, and it just regurgitates that. And how does the producer, how does the original author get paid on that sort of stuff?
Agreed.
And is
Yeah.
there, legal ramifications of the original producer saying, hey, listen, you served up this information as if it's your own, but you're no different than the fifth grader who copied the back of the book for your book report.
That seems like you and I are in agreement in that then.
Yeah, that could be a problem if it and you're already
Yeah.
sort of seeing that a little bit with Google. People are not clicking on the links that are provided. They're reading the description or pulling the answer they want off reading the first two or three descriptions rather than clicking the link, which, obviously it's in the advertising business. So Google's in the advertising business, so they get the ad hit, but the
Right.
content producer who put out the content is not getting
Right.
that hit.
Right.
So that's unfortunate.
And hopefully the public education system will continue to teach critical thinking and teach that, when facts are espoused and
Mhm.
they're supported by citations, it adds credibility to the work, right?
Right.
And instead of and I don't want to be one of these who say like the world is coming to an end and our society is on fire, but it does seem a little bit like, well, if you spend any amount of time on social media and you see anybody flinging any news articles and trying to gaslight anybody, nobody's it seems like a lot of people aren't using critical thinking even when watching entertainment. And this is the word I'm applying to MSNBC and Fox News alike, is that those are really entertainment sources. They're news. I don't know. I don't call them news because I don't think there's a lot of journalism happening there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
infotainment or something like
In
that, right?
infotainment, right. So I watch both of them because I don't watch them. I I cherry pick nuggets from both of
Mhm.
them. I try not to live in an echo chamber, so I just kind of see. But if I spend too much time on either of them, it's like a big eye roll to me, anyways. But I think that that's credited to my commitment to critical thinking. When somebody says something, it's like, where are they coming from when they say it? What's the source of information that they're saying it? Um, I don't know. This is my little rant, I
Yeah,
guess.
and as it relates back to these chatbots and AI, you wonder if that, just like the Google search algorithms can be played or be manipulated is probably not the right word, but be gamed, so to speak, where like
Right,
do this to your website to get on the first page of Google or whatever. It's
right,
going to become, let's slam out, 50 different websites with this fake news on it. Um, and set it up in a way that Google reads this. So when somebody asks the question, Bard AI or ChatGPT or whatever, it's going to say, wow, 50 websites say this. This must be factual. There could be an instance where that becomes a problem too, where you're able to put out so much fake news that it overwhelms the system.
Right. So yeah, so full circle this for sure. Like the system hopefully will remind the users that this is according to,
Mm-hmm.
right? This information according to,
Yeah, and then
hopefully,
it all relates back to the reader too. If it cites 3 fake sources,
yeah,
I love that. You ever see the websites that are like the fake, where they'll sound like a local newspaper or
the
something, or
Onion.
no, not like those, but they'll be like the Cleveland,
Yes.
source, whatever, or the Cleveland Daily News or something like
Cleveland
that.
News 10, right? Or yeah,
Yeah,
or yeah, I've seen that.
and they'll
Yeah,
make it look like it's an official website, but
domestic to a region.
yeah, right. And you'll be like,
Yeah,
wow, they're reporting this, but it's not. It's
yeah.
just
It's like Phoenix. It's like Phoenix University, right?
right. Yeah,
Right. Everybody thinks that like that is Phoenix, Arizona's university, and
yeah.
it's not. It's an internet. It's an internet college, which I won't say any, whether it's valid or not, but it's definitely not. Am I getting that right? Is Phoenix University?
It's University of Phoenix, but they actually leaned into it because they bought the stadium rights in a stadium in Phoenix, Arizona.
Did they?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so hilarious. Oh man, critical thinking. People, I've had way too many conversations with my father about things that he comes to me saying he just read this on the internet, he saw this on the
Mhm.
news, he saw, and I'm like, Dad, you gotta apply critical thought, and his whole generation just whatever Walter Cronkite, reported was that was factual. And quite frankly, I don't know if Walter Cronkite ever had agendas. I didn't live through that era, so I don't know what that if his content was kind of like dark line down the middle, like here's the information, or did Walter Cronkite have an agenda? Do you have any
I'm
insight?
sure people on both sides say he did. Yeah. Um,
Or
I
his
know
or
my
his
dad would talk about certain networks or whatever that had an agenda. That's probably his day is 60s, 70s, 80s. So I'm
Right.
sure it existed, whether it was perceived or whether it was actual, who knows? But
Right. I mean, even Benjamin Franklin, if we're really going to go off the rails here, Benjamin Franklin had a newspaper. He owned a newspaper, I think, didn't
mhm,
he, in
sure.
Philadelphia? And he was a Politico,
Mhm,
and he used that medium to perhaps sway the hearts and minds. So
mhm.
critical
Well,
thinking.
yeah. I mean, the idea that this is something new or something different, I always kind of push back on that. It wasn't uncommon when newspapers were more popular, as you'd have 2 newspapers in town. You'd have 2 papers in Hartford. One would be Republican, one would be Democrat, and you'd read the one that you wanted to read, that was a more comfortable read or whatever. So the idea that newspapers have always played it down the line, and recently it's turned into whatever, that I'll push back on a little bit from other people, but
Yeah. So I think as AI comes up, I really hope our society invests a lot of focus on critical thinking. Where's this information coming from? Both in the context of physically, where is this information coming from, and
yeah.
then where is it coming from the bent of the content producer?
Yeah, and do people have time to fact check, and then what becomes the source, right? If you're asking your smart speaker some information, are you going to really say, "Well, that might be right, but let me go sit at the computer and Google it just to make sure that that's right?"
Well, there's value to information, right? If the smart speaker tells me George Washington's birthday was January 29th, like I'm like, that's good enough. I mean, if it's off a
Mhm.
couple days or whatever, like I'm not wagering my house on it. I'm not wagering
Right.
a a grade letter on a report. But
Mhm.
if you're trying to evangelize information or an initiative or something like that, yeah, you might want to get your facts right and get it right. So there's
Mhm.
there's value to the information, what you're doing with it. So
The most productive use case I had so far for ChatGPT was last night, actually. So my son's got this, it's really a baby toy. And it's kind of funny because I was about to like throw it out or donate it, and he grabbed it and he's sort of latched onto it again, which is kind of funny. But it's this like giraffe's head on basically like attached to a little blanket. And so so it kind of looks like a giraffe, but when you pull out the blanket part, it kind of looks like a bat. So somewhere along the line, it acquired the name Giraffe Batty. So he's got his little Giraffe Batty buddy. So I asked Chat GPT, I said, write me a story about a giraffe that has bat-like characteristics and lives in Connecticut. And it produced like, I don't know, I didn't count it, but it must have been 400 words on this story. And it was, it wasn't great. You could, if you knew it was, if you looked at it and said, is this automated? You'd be like, yeah, it's probably automated. But to read it to a 5-year-old, he's like, oh, wow, that, to his like mind was blown that my phone had a story about his Giraffe Batty or whatever. And but
That's
something that doesn't need to be fact checked, something that, I don't want to spend a lot of time on. It was kind of funny.
entertainment value. Yeah.
Entertainment value, that, and to come up with ideas. I like the lists, build me an outline of 10 topics about, fiber
Yeah.
cable or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where the value is so far.
That's interesting.